Christina.
Hey, Susan.
Let's talk about minimum sample size, because sometimes you know what your confidence level is, but you need to run the study and you need to know how many people you have to ask. And the truth is, it costs money to run a study.
Mhm.
So you need to know the minimum number of people that you need to ask in order to meet the requirements of the confidence level and the margin of error, and still, feel good about your study. So
Yeah, because you want to have enough people that you don't have a huge margin of error,
right.
and still have a pretty high confidence level.
Yes.
Right. So, since the size of our margin of error changes depending on the sample size and confidence level, I sometimes, like you said, I'll need to find that minimum sample size. So there's a formula that you can use, but
There is.
there is, and we'll talk about that. But we really prefer using technology to find it because we have the technology available.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we are when we are using this stat proportion stats, one sample width / sample size, the terms that we need to know are target proportion. Okay. And the target proportion is a previous estimate of your population parameter.
Oh, like if a previous study had been done and in that previous study it was 37% or whatever that said yes, then you would use 37 as your target.
Yes.
But what do we do if there is no previous study?
Well, then what you do is you leave that as 0.5. Okay.
So you have to say, I don't know anything about the population, so I'm gonna assume 50% would say yes and 50% would say no. So 0.5 is my target.
Exactly. And,
Okay.
and also, if I did that, if I use 0.5, it basically makes this product here p hat times q hat, because p hat would be your target proportion.
Mm-hmm.
It makes that product like as big as possible.
Yes. Yes.
So
if you do have a previous study, it's going to lower the number of people you have to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so in StatCrunch, the other thing it asks for is the width of the interval.
Oh, we kind of looked at that when we were looking at figuring out the margin of error if you have the interval.
Yeah. And we said that the margin of error was half of the width of the interval.
Yeah.
So that means that the width is going to be 2 times the margin of error that I want.
So whatever margin of error you're given, make sure you double it for the width of the interval. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so in this example here, suppose an internet marketing company wants to determine the current percentage of customers who click on ads on their smartphones. So they want to do a study for population proportion. Okay, the percentage of customers who click on ads. How many customers should the company survey in order to be 90% confident that the estimated proportion is within 5 percentage points of the true population proportion of customers? Assume a previous study showed that 12% of customers click on ads.
Okay, there's a lot of information in that.
A lot of information there, yeah.
So let's start taking it apart, because the two things we get out of that first section are the confidence level, which is 90%.
Yep.
And you have this thing that says estimated proportion within 5 percentage points. That is the margin of error. That is a wording for the margin of error.
Yeah.
So if the margin of error is 0.05, then that makes the width twice that, right?
Which will be 0.1 or 10%.
Yes. Okay.
And then I also have a previous study that was done that said 12% of customers click on ads. And
that's a target proportion, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at that in StatCrunch. If I go to that stat proportion stats, one sample, width sample size is the last option there.
Right. We were using with summary earlier when we were calculating
Mhm.
confidence intervals, but now we're going to that last one with sample size.
Yep. And, down here at the bottom is where I'm going to enter my information. I wanted a 90% confidence level. So I'll
Which
change
is
that.
0.90. Don't enter 90%. Put
Right. Yeah. You'll get like an
0.90.
error message.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, mhm. And then the target proportion was that previous study. So I'm going to
That
put,
was 12%, wasn't it? Yep.
Mhm.
0.12. Okay.
And then the width of the interval was that 5 percentage points times 2. So I'm going to put in
Mhm.
0.1 or 0.10.
Okay. And then we're
Okay.
not putting in anything for the sample size because that's what we want StatCrunch to give us.
Right. So I'm going to leave that blank. And then when I hit compute, I get my sample size that's necessary. Now,
115. Oh, I see something that's catching my eye.
yeah, I was going to say, did you notice that this changed to a little bit less than
It
0?
did, and I know why. I know
Why?
why. Because it probably got 114 point something
Mm-hmm.
people. And you can't ask a point something people. So StatCrunch will always round up then to the next whole person, which
Right.
would be 115.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yep. So 115 would be that minimum sample size that we need to have a 5% margin of error and a 90% confidence level.
Yes, if you had used the formula, you would have probably gotten 114 point something.
Yeah.
And you would always round up.
Yeah.
I don't
Even if
care
it
if you
was
get
like, yeah, go ahead.
I don't care if you get 114.001, you round up to 115 because that means 114 is not enough. You need
Right.
to ask one more person because you're looking for the minimum sample size that you can ask.
Yep. Because if I got 114 point something something and I asked 114 people, my
Mhm.
margin of error is going to be a little bit bigger than 5%.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, so, looking at the next one here.
But I want to go back and say StatCrunch has rounded up for you. Don't round up that number.
Oh, right. Yeah,
StatCrunch gives you.
yeah, don't round up again. Don't round up again. Okay. So, this is the same question, except I don't have a previous study. And so I
Oh,
would leave the target proportion as 0.5.
right. We have to assume half would say yes, half would say no.
Right.
Okay.
And so, when I change this back here, then I would leave this target proportion right here instead of putting in the 12% because I don't have a previous estimate.
Mhm.
Then I
Okay,
would,
hold on. Just to make sure, since it might be hard for people to see it, we put in 0.90 for the confidence level, 0.5 for the target proportion, and the width was 0.1
0.1.
originally. And then we hit compute,
And I
271.
271 for the sample
We have
size.
to ask more people if we don't have a target proportion given.
Mhm.
Okie doke.
Yep. All right.
Is that
Thanks.
it?
Yep.
We're good?
Yep.
All right, thanks.